Hey everyone, welcome out to the double count out. Hopefully everyone is doing well. Now, as you can see today, Kieran is not here. He had some family stuff on, so he is unable to join today. But I am not alone. I am being joined by our special guest today, the owner of Capital Pro Wrestling, the one and only Jay Marshall. Hey Jay.
How's how's it going, buddy?
Going good, how are
Pleasure to be
you?
here. Yeah, no, good, good.
So, I guess we'll get right into it with the questions.
Honey,
Yep.
light.
Oh, hang on, my Mrs. just pointed out my light wasn't on. Hang on, there we go,
Now we
cameras.
can see you.
Yeah. So Jay, what got you into professional wrestling as a whole? Like as a fan?
As a fan, well, this is going back in the old days. Um, oh,
Oh,
there we go. Sorry, phone had a bit of a spaz there for a second. Let's just correct that. Technical difficulties, gotta love them. Yeah. So when I was a kid, back it was in 1988. There was a little show called SummerSlam, and I was in Kawerau at my cousin's place, and he was a big wrestling fan. I had never seen it. I walked into his bedroom, and there he was watching this Elvis impersonator in the middle of a ring. Next minute, this long-haired, tasseled like, god of a man came running down, beat the crap out of him for about 30 seconds, and took his title. So yeah, that was the Ultimate Warrior, obviously versus Honky Tonk Man,
I
and
was
I was like,
thinking
hey,
that.
I thought this is cool. I need to see more of this, so I started watching the rest of the SummerSlam, and then I sort of got hooked, and started watching all the shows from there. Um, so yeah, you can blame it all on the Ultimate Warrior.
Ultimate Warrior and Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah,
1988. I wasn't
yeah,
even one when that SummerSlam aired. I turned one in
yeah.
December of that year.
Well, I was 11, so yeah.
So, what has been your favourite match from like WWE and all that? Like WWE, WCW.
Favorite, yeah. Sort of favorite though. That's really a hard one because you have so many different ones are your favorite for different reasons. Um, Obviously, yeah, you can say the originals. You can say the sort of Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan um, at WrestleMania 6. Everybody says the Macho Steamboat from WrestleMania 3. Um, yeah, it's really hard to narrow down to sort of one. Um, but yeah, I remember for different reasons. I remember watching the it was Hulk Hogan versus Zeus, um, and when Zeus came down and attacked them in the cage and stuff like that, that was one that sort of stuck out. But for not wrestling reasons, but more storyline, and that got me really invested. Um, yeah, so recently, I guess, geez, recently probably the one that I've liked the most was very recently. It's probably the King of the Ring, Randy Orton versus Gunther. So I'm
That
looking
was
forward to
good.
that rematch. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. The
So
Bash at Berlin is when they got their rematch, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So looking forward to that one.
Opposite side of that coin from favourites. What matches have you seen, like in on TV and that, and gone? The fuck were they thinking?
Wow, this could be a very long podcast. Um, um yeah, there's I try not to be too negative on wrestling because you hear the usual saying where there's all different flavors of ice cream.
Yep.
And what I think is terrible might some people might think is absolutely wonderful. But if at a push, the what was that Boss Man, the dog pound match? I think it was called, where he who did he fight? Um, Oh God, it was years and years ago. They had basically locked in a cage. They had dogs on the outside. It was
Is
supposed to be ferocious um,
is that the one where they hung him
cat
after the
dogs.
match?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yep, I
yeah,
agree.
yeah,
I agree. I can't remember who
yeah,
he was facing, but I agree.
yeah. No, but I try not to. I try not to dwell on worse matches. I've seen some pretty bad ones that need a lot of work on. But I guess if you learn something from the match, there's never really a bad match.
Yep. Okay. How did you get into New Zealand wrestling?
New Zealand wrestling. Well, we used to go to Wellington shows for NZWPW, and um, that was really really cool. I really enjoyed that. I at the time I had sort of I was married, kids, normal day job and stuff like that. So I'd put on a whole lot of weight, um, and basically got told by the doctor I had to lose a whole lot. So I lost it. And I used to do kickboxing years ago. Wanted to get back into something, and my wife um, suggested that maybe I should try wrestling because she knew I was a massive big wrestling fan. She knew I knew people that was in wrestling, and it was a bit safer than a 38-year-old guy trying to keep up with 16 and 18-year-old kickboxers. Um, so I reached out to the guys at WPW. I got invited to a training. Went along, did a bit of a trial, I guess you could say, um, and then sort of slotted straight in there. Yeah, and had my debut match the day before my 40th birthday. So yeah,
I was actually there when you had your debut match. It was in Mustard at MIS, correct?
yes, yep. That's where I
So,
I gave Axel the most vicious beating of his life. Yeah,
not the
yeah,
way I
we just
remember it, but
yeah. That's how I remember it.
so take us back to that night, back to when you were making your debut. What was going through your head?
I was absolutely as nervous as hell. I had my mum, I had my wife, I had my kids, I even had my grandkids sitting out ringside to watch. Um, Plus, it was one of the first shows we'd done back in Masterton. I'd sort of organised the show for WPW because I sort of, with my business skills and my day job, I sort of quickly got into management for WPW and helped try and turn the place around. So I was nervous about that because it was a new show, and a new venue, new place, and stuff like that. And then found out that I was also going to have a match. Um, I was thankfully lucky to be going in there with Axel, who was one of our trainers at WPW at the time. So I was comfortable with him. Um, but let's just say he gave me a few chops to welcome me to the business.
Initiation.
Um, Yeah, yeah. So I was as nervous as anything. I was actually the obviously the superhero has a mask, and the mask was supposed to be there for that show, but it didn't arrive. So I had to come out with everybody seeing my face, which made it even worse, nerve wise. But yeah, no, it was beforehand very very nervous. Afterwards, just yeah, floating on the air and really 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 happy I've done. So.
Speaking of the superhero, that's a great segue. Tell us about the character of the superhero, like how you came up with the character and like what he stands for and all that.
Okay, so basically, like I say, being 40 years old when I had my debut match, I wasn't the most athletic specimen in the ring. I certainly didn't have the Ultimate Warrior body that I wanted to when I was, having my debut match back when I was dreaming as a kid. So I had to figure out a sort of a character that would sort of work to my strengths. So as a kid, I was a massive big fan of Greatest American Hero. Also a huge fan of Hurricane. So I thought, right, cool. I'm going to rip off parts of the Hurricane, and I'm going to rip off parts of the Greatest American Hero, and basically had this idea of a an older dude thinking he was a superhero, but he's not really a superhero, and just basically gets his butt kicked a hell of a lot. Because I noticed that in wrestling, everybody wants to be The Rock. Everyone wanted to be Stone Cold. Everyone wanted to be the big star. But there was a big gap of people that just wanted to be there to wrestle and happy to go out there and get beaten up and enjoy the show, and make these other guys look good. So that was kind of where the superhero started. Changed a little bit over the years, but pretty much the bones are still there.
Speaking of changing over the years, currently the superhero is known as the chairman of the gun cabinet. How did that come about?
That was because some dick called Ron Zero decided to try and beat us up, so I beat him up with a chair. Yeah, well, let's sort of make it a bit more sort of in depth for the people listening. So the gun cabinet, we were the uber babyface good guys. Everyone loved us. We were mobbed by fans everywhere we went. Yeah, right. But we had a philosophical difference with one of our tag team partners. There was guy Ryan Zero, who was part of the gun cabinet, which was me, myself, Ray Gunn, and Justice Sharp at the time. Yeah, difference of opinion. We held the CPW tag team titles a couple of times. When we lost them the last time, Ryan Zero probably could have done more. So we asked him to leave the group. He didn't like it. And then, yeah, the fans kind of turned on us, and we sort of thought, well, geez, we're still the same old people. I'm still a superhero, How can you be a superhero? I'm there to help people, save the wrestling, So yeah, it's kind of made me think that maybe I have to be a little bit more meaner, because people were being mean to me.
So you'd still consider yourself a superhero, being mean to people?
We're not bad guys in the gun cabinet. We are good guys. We stand for what's right. Just because it's not popular, just because it is not what the fans want, it's what's right for wrestling. It's what's right for CPW. It's right for all these other promotions that we wrestle for. Sometimes you need to be a superhero to do the bad things to get the good result.
Speaking of CPW, how did Capital Pro Wrestling come about?
Okay, so Capital Pro Wrestling. I was 7 years ago. I was at WPW, NZ we had organised a big fundraising show for a guy Mitchell, who's got muscular dystrophy, and we wanted to try and get him over to WrestleMania. And it was a big thing that was all going out through all the wrestling promotions in New Zealand. And I had organised the largest event that New Zealand had seen, where we had all 11 promotions come together. No one got any booking fees, no one got any travel, they all just came down on their own, out of their own wallet and pocket to help out Mitchell. We'd set this up, and then we had a differing opinion with the owner of WPW at the time, and he said he didn't want to be part of the show, and so he basically refused to have WPW be involved. At the time, we were using my ring, and I built a ring, just to tick off a bucket list. I wanted to build a wrestling ring, so I did, and we were using that for WPW. So I had pretty much everything I needed, except for I didn't have a promotion. So I thought, well, I've run WPW for a number of years. Let's just I'm going to do the show under my own banner. So I came up with Capital Pro Wrestling because, Wellington is the capital of New Zealand.
Yep, and, not that you would think it, considering Auckland gets everything.
Yeah, but so I decided to do Mitchell Mania. It was only going to be a one-off show. I was just going to do that one thing to help Mitchell get to thing and to WrestleMania. and then I was going to see if it was going to work. We did Mitchellmania. We managed to raise a whole bunch of money for Mitchell. Long story short, he got to WrestleMania. So not just from that one show, but from all the other little shows and the fundraisers we've done around New Zealand. And I was like, wow, this is really, really cool, guys. A bunch of wrestlers have said to me, you should keep going. So I did. And yeah, we haven't really looked back. So basically, we're WPW finished off, CPW started up, and just carried on, and the sky's been the limit since.
I'd also like to thank you right now for the opportunity to be a referee for you for these years.
Oh, kayfabe, buddy. Jeez, man. Now everyone's going to know you're the ref. No, that is my pleasure. You have been a long-standing supporter of wrestling in Wellington. So it was your dream to be a referee, and so we helped you work towards that. And yeah, now you're a regular fixture on the shows.
So next weekend is Capital Carnage, the biggest show of the year for CPW. How did Capital Carnage come about originally, and how's it grown over the years?
Okay, so we ended up doing sort of like monthly, 6 weekly shows for CPW. And just like the WWE, we wanted to have a big one. We wanted to have that sort of that mania show, that show where all storylines lead to that gets people invested and involved. We saw a big sort of increase in attendance for CPW, and we got really, really awesome following. So we thought, well, let's try and do a bigger show. You know, we're regularly filling out our home venue of Apuni, which fits about between 120 and 140 people. We thought, well, wonder what could happen if we could go for something bigger. So we got the Whiranaki Whare Tonga in Upper Hutt for the first ever Capital Carnage, which is the venue we're going to be back to next week. And it was really, really cool. We had over 450 people there. We had we were trying to think of, we wanted cool matches that would stand out. So we had a rumble. We also came up with this this isolation chamber match because it was just after COVID. Everybody had been in isolation as such. So basically, we've got it's very similar to the elimination chambers that WWE do. So we've got 4 pods. We had 6 wrestlers in the match. 4 people were in pods. We just don't have the big structure over the ring yet. One day. So that's sort of our showcase match for Capital Carnages. That we have that. No other promotion in New Zealand does a match like that. So it's a nice point of difference. And yeah, so we just thought, well, hell, let's try it. And like I say, we got 450 to the first Capital Carnage. The next year, we were unable to get that venue, so we experimented with Brewtown. Unfortunately, being August, it was winter. It's an outside venue, and it didn't go so well for us. We still had over 250 people there, but we also had a big storm come through, and it was pretty cold.
Oh yes.
Yeah. But hey, you win some, you lose some. At least we tried. So this year we decided, yep, we're going to go back to Whiranaki Whare Tonga, just because it's a really, really cool venue, and it's a nice location. It's right in the middle of Upper Hutt, so it's easy for people to get to. Train station is literally about 90 meters down the road. So
I was going to ask you about the isolation chamber, but you pretty much just explained it all there. So,
yeah.
Are there any
Cool match, that one.
are there any match types that have yet to be had in CPW that you would like to bring into CPW?
I think we've covered a fair lot of it. We've had the usual, the no DQs. We've had the street fights. We've had our TLC match we have every Christmas, the tinsel lights and candy canes match. Um, as for ones where we've even had some sort of verging on hardcore death type matches. Not a big fan of that myself, but there's a niche market. People like it, so you've got to cater for everyone. Um, Matches. Yeah, ultimately, I would love to do a cage match. Seriously trying to figure out how I can do that. Because I don't want to just get a whole bunch of temporary fencing and slap it around the ring and call it a cage. I'd rather make a cage and have it done, and having the ability to be able to fabricate and weld, it does make it a possibility. So yeah, it's something I'm looking forward to, is maybe a cage match. Um, yeah, pretty much I'll be open to any match. So sometimes these wrestlers have some crazy ideas for matches. So yeah,
Sometimes the best ideas come from the most insane.
yep, yep, and yeah, some of the wrestlers are pretty insane in a good way.
Yep. So in Capital Carnage next week, we've got wrestlers from Australia coming over in the Puppeteer and Keegan Brettle.
Yep, that's the
Yep.
one.
So for those that don't know, Keegan's last match was against a guy called EC3 for the NWA Heavyweight Championship. How did you get Puppeteer and Keegan? And is there
Um,
any chance of us seeing other Australian wrestlers in CPW in the near future?
okay, well, Keegan Brittle, he is the current All Star Australia Heavyweight Champion. So All Star Australia is a promotion based out of Sydney. They are sort of very very similar to CPW, who it's a bunch of guys wanting to have a lot of fun, put on a good show, entertain the crowd. We did the after the Pyro Rocks event. Um, I simply got a message from Keegan, saying that hey, that he would love to at some stage come over to New Zealand and wrestle. And so sort of we quickly developed to a few messages later, developed to a video call where I said to him, hey, we've got a big show, Capital Carnage. If you can make it in August, we'd love to have you. And he's like, oh wow, that's awesome. He says, hey, we've also got another guy here that uh, I think would fit in quite nicely. A French guy by the name of the Puppeteer. At the time, he was the All Star Championship or All Star Wrestling Interstate Champion. Unfortunately, he lost that title, but he's a pretty cool character. So yeah, they asked if he could come on over as well, and I thought, yeah, no, he'd be perfect. He's got a very sort of fun-loving entertainment sort of based gimmick, a lot like myself. And I just thought he'd be the perfect fit. And yeah, like I say, Keegan Brittle, he is trained by Lance Storm. He went over. He's been wrestling since about 2016, 17. He went over and trained with Lance Storm. He has done several tours of America, in the UK and stuff like that. So he's sort of a well-travelled wrestler. As you say, he was handpicked by the NWA to face EC3. At the end of that match, and this is a legitimate shoot, EC3 went out the back and went straight up to Keegan and says, anytime you want to challenge for this title, whether it's in Australia or the States, just sing out and you've got it. He loved the match so much. And obviously working with Keegan, that he just says, yeah, open challenge anytime you want it. So to get that from a guy the level of EC3, who's wrestled in WWE, TNA's wrestled everywhere, it's a pretty good, uh, you know, tip of the cap to Keegan. So
Shows his
um,
skill.
yeah. So really looking forward to having him on board, coming over, because when you get different wrestlers of different levels, let's say nicely, they all they do is they help grow the scene. Just by being at the show, talking with the guys, Keegan's going to pass on a whole bunch of knowledge to to our boys. And even though the New Zealand and Australia scenes are similar, there's differences in each place. So hopefully Keegan can teach us a few things and we can teach him a few things, and then wrestling around the world gets better. As for other overseas acts that may or may not appear on CPW, at this stage you might want to check out Aftermath in Palmerston North in September, because we are going to have the IPW heavyweight champion from Australia on the show. So that's going to be really, really cool. It hasn't been announced, so it's a sneak peek exclusive.
So for those that are watching the podcast or listening on Spotify, when it goes on Spotify, you've just been given a sneak peek at something to come.
Yeah. So that he's the one that we've got at the moment. We are looking at eventually down the lines. We had the mercenary Slade Mercer. He came back to New Zealand during COVID times. We're hoping to get him back at some stage. So I think as the scene grows, I think you will see more and more overseas wrestlers. The good thing is in New Zealand, flights around New Zealand have gone up considerably and they're pretty damn high at the moment. So to fly somebody in from Australia is actually not much more expensive than flying somebody in from Auckland or Invercargill or something like that. So international travel seems to be cheap.
International travel's cheap, national travel not so much.
No. So it does. It opens up the it gives people opportunity in other places to come over here, which is awesome. We did that Pyro Rock show that we did, the beer festival and the music festival we did. We had 1,200 people come to it. It was absolutely a massive event. That's brought a bunch of eyes on us from the Australian scene, and we're getting a lot of people querying us about that. So I think as New Zealand wrestling as a whole grows, so does the opportunity to get some pretty cool people in from other places.
So Capital Carnage, what can you tell us about the matches that are happening?
Okay, so matches. Well, of course, we've got the Isolation Chamber. That's going to see a talented guy called Luke Starr. He'll be the 6 people in this match. So Luke Starr will be taking on Curtis Castlewood. The Australian puppeteer will be in that match as well. The unorthodox stylings of young Jitters the Clown, he will be in that match. Pretty good looking fellow, that one. And a guy by the name of Curtis Castlewood. He is number 5.
You said Curtis already.
Did I? Ah, so
Trip Hazard you missed.
Trip Hazard. That's Trip Hazard. He is also in the match. But like I say, we've got 5 spots, but there's 6 people needed in this match. So earlier in the evening, we will be having the Carnage Rumble. So we have a multi-man Royal Rumble match, basically. The winner of that will earn that coveted 6th spot in the Isolation Chamber match. Other matches we've got, we have the first semi-final for the New Zealand, or the Aotearoa New Zealand Flyweight Championship, which is a new championship yet to be debuted. Which is a really, really cool inter-promotional championship. So it's not owned by one particular promotion. It's going to have the ability to travel around all the different ones. So as part of that, all the a bunch of promotions around New Zealand are getting the opportunity to have matches for them, qualifying matches for this tournament. We're lucky enough to have one of the semi-finals, which will see one of CPW's own, ACJ, taking on Zach Hale from IPW in Auckland. And of course, the winner of that will advance on to the finals. So looking forward to that one. These are 2 high-flying, brilliant guys, so it'll be a great match.
Both amazing talent.
Yep. Other matches, we've got tag team match where we've got the Flavor, CPW's the Flavor, which is Dev Cairo and Wellington's own Dev Cairo, New Zealand's youngest professional wrestler. He'll be teaming up with his partner Bobby Wishart, and they'll be taking on the Ego Trip from the Gun Cabinet. Good looking fellas, those ones too. Which is Harry Williams and the main event Freddie Ford. What else do we got? We have the last man standing match, Ray Gunn versus the Panhead World Heavyweight Champion Ryan Zero. As previously mentioned, the Gun Cabinet have had a bit of problems with Ryan Zero. This is going to be the be all and end all. Whoever is the last man standing will win the match. So that's going to be a pretty extreme match, I imagine. Knowing those two. We also have Keegan Brettle. Like I say, he is coming over. He is going to be defending the All-Star Championship, Heavyweight Championship, against CPW's Dan Martins. Dan Martins is a absolutely amazing fella, legend of the game, goes back from the KPW days, and has been, I think it's about 17, 18 years in the business so far. So he's going to be representing New Zealand and CPW, and hopefully walking home with the All-Star Heavyweight Championship. So looking forward to that one. And speaking of championships, we've got the Rough, Tough and Jacked. That's Dusty Bridges and Rowan Davis. They will be taking on the Young Nats of Tane Tukaha and Tyler Ernst for the CPW Tag Team Championships. And then the big one. We have the CPW Heavyweight Championship that will be defended by Sir Mr. Burns. He will be going up against Tim Warren, also of Rough, Tough and Jacked. If you follow CPW, you understand there's a bit of bad blood between those guys. So yeah, it's a no championship advantage match. So the championship can change hands via DQ. It can change hands by disqualification.
Count out.
We've had a few.
Anything.
Yeah. Yep. We've had a few screwy finishes between these two over the last few months, and we're going to make sure that it's settled this time once and for all.
So now, speaking of the Isolation Chamber, one of the competitors you said in that was Jitters, the clown, which just so happens to be another character of yours. Tell us about Jitters, like how the character came about, the inspiration, just the whole backstory of Jitters.
Okay, cool. All right. So, like I say, we have back in the early days, I had the superhero J Marshal. He was the good guy back then, you know. And an opportunity came up for me to wrestle in Christchurch in a tag team. But we were going to be heels. And a good friend of mine, Umlaut, he was part of the Circus of Tragedy. And we were at the back, we were talking, and we were going to team up Superhero and Umlaut and just sort of do the mismatched tag team thing. And sat there and I said, well, you know what? I absolutely love Doink. I love the whole comedy side of wrestling. I said, I love Doink. I've always wanted to be a clown. I'll grab some clown gear and I'll come down. We'll think of a clown. Then we're trying to think of a name, and obviously because name's Jay, and so we've got something beginning with J, and we're trying to think of the name and stuff like that. And there's Jerky and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to have that. And
Jerky
being
the
a
clown.
massive, yep. My daughter Paris, being a massive fan of the Flash, she's like, well, the cafe's called Jitters. Why don't you be called Jitters? And I was like, that's perfect.
It is.
So yeah. So that's how the name came about. As for the sort of the gimmick, well, he's a clown. It's one of the most fun characters to play because I can just go out and do whatever I want. You know, whether I've got your nose spot, I regularly give people wedgies in the middle of a match. I do the noogie. Yeah, do a whole bunch of really silly stuff. Part of what I liked about it was because bear in mind he was supposed to be an evil clown, and
Yep.
the fans absolutely loved it. So we had people that would just scream in appreciation because of Jitters, but then you also had the other people that would scream away because they hated clowns. Which the yeah, I kind of like that as well. So the Segs of Tragedy fast actually became sort of faces, which was good because it let me do a bit more fun things. Like the old tripping up as I get into the ring and stuff like that. I feel probably the most comfortable when I'm playing Jitters because he's a clown. He can just be absolutely silly. If you forget what you're doing in a match, you can just make something up and it suits a clown. At point in case at the moment, we've sort of seen a sort of evolution of Jitters over the last couple of shows, where it's basically become Jitters. He comes out to Brock Lesnar's music, thinks he's Brock Lesnar. Even hit a couple of spears and went for an F5 at the last show. Yeah, but of course, you hear the Brock Lesnar music, you think, oh my god, Brock Lesnar's coming out, and then out comes. So,
I've got to admit, the last show that I was at, which wasn't the most recent one, but the one before that, when I was reffing Jitters versus Trip Hazard.
Yes.
And the Brock music hits and that. I am so glad that there's no crowd on that side by the entrance, because I had this big grin on my face.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the amount of times I've seen Jitters do stuff, especially when I'm in the ring riffing, and I'm trying not to burst out laughing.
That is a bit of method to my madness in that. I see Jitters, if he goes out there and if he can make the ref crack and he can make his opponent crack, yeah, that just makes it fun. I believe there's definitely enough serious wrestlers in New Zealand and around the world, and sometimes you just need that silliness in a match, and that's where Jitters comes in, and I think he's pretty good at that. So really, really looking forward to getting the chance to potentially maybe team up with the puppeteer and do some inter-Tasmanian bloody fun. You probably don't want to be in the ring with us if we're going to be teaming up against each other. I think some craziness will happen. But yeah.
That sounds like an insane combo.
Yeah. So, the puppeteer is absolutely amazing, and I think, I think it's a cool opportunity, and hey, it's Jitters has got his place in New Zealand wrestling, and yeah, it's fun to do.
Speaking of getting people to break as Jitters the Clown, who has been your favourite person to break, and how did you break them?
Okay, trying to think which ones I can actually say. On air, okay, we were it was in Christchurch, and I was wrestling Stuart the Druid, and we had Elliot Samuels as the referee for the match. This was before Elliot Samuels became a wrestler. He was there. It's generally how people do, and they'll do some riffing and stuff like that, and then maybe progress into wrestling. Now, I'm sitting there wrestling away with Stuart the Druid, who's another masked character, but he is basically just a blacked out face. And I had him in headlock, and I was on a seated position. He's there in front of me. He rolled me over, went for a pin. I kicked out, he rolled back up, and I just reached over and I grabbed his undies and gave him a massive big wedgie. And Elliot Samuels says, "No, you can't do that." And Jitters just came out and says, "Why? It's not illegal." And he's like, "Yeah, but it's And I was like, "What? Nothing wrong with it." So I pulled even harder, and all this. And next minute, you can hear the person underneath the mask of Stuart just laughing his head off. Elliot's lost for words because he doesn't. Well, technically, no, it's not an illegal move. It's probably not the the most savoury or the most technically sound move, but it was effective. Yeah.
Yeah, true. It doesn't say anywhere that you can't use a wedgie.
No, no. It says you can't pull the tights when you are going for a pin. But this was just, as a sequence of moves. I've had people in the crowd, literally as I've come out, the kids have been high-fiving me because they absolutely love me, and mums have literally ran out the building because they were petrified of clowns. And then when the woman, she came back and because like she took off, and I remember saying to the dad it was like, what did I do? And he's like, oh, she doesn't like clowns. And so every time I was got someone in a headlock or some type of move on the ground, I'd make sure that I looked over to her, got eye contact, and gave her a cheeky little wave. And yeah, she absolutely hated it. But she came around. We also had another ref, John Reginald from Unified, who he was legitimately afraid of clowns. They're literally like pros. There was actually Jitters' first match. Now me and John, we get on really, really well, and so we're talking about the match. We're hanging out. We're talking about the match. Everything like beautiful. Match starts, or match, getting ready to go. Me and Umlaut come out, and like the whole match, John's just been a complete a-hole to me. He's just, I try and talk to him because you do, you're in a match, and he's just ignoring me. There was a spot there where I went for a pin and the guy kicked out, and I ended up landing on John. John just shoves me off, and I'm like, what the hell? Didn't end up winning that match, but afterwards I went up to the promoter, Chris. I was like, hey man, what's up? Have I pissed John off somehow? And he's like, no, you haven't. And he has a big grin on his face. Like, what have I done? And he goes, oh, nothing. He goes, John's afraid of clowns.
Oh.
And I'm like, why did you put a guy who's afraid of clowns reffing a match with a clown in? And he goes, because it's funny. And I'm like, but this more serious question is why didn't you tell the clown? I could have had so much fun with that. So fast forward to the next show. Basically Jitters came running out and gave John a balloon and gave him a hug and stood there as we were waiting for their opponents to come out, actually holding John's hand and swinging side to side. And John's just absolutely corpsing because it's this clown.
Like, why are you holding my hand?
Yeah, no. So it was pretty cool. But fast forward maybe a year or so later, they were doing their Christmas show. On the same day as we were all setting up and the day of the event, there was a parade. So everybody in Kaipoi, they're all getting together for this parade. We ended up dressing John as Jitters and sending him out to do a meet and greet. Now, this was not by forced. John wanted to do this because by hanging out with me, he had sort of got over his fear of clowns. And
so this was the next step.
He would just like to do that. So we dressed him up as Jitters. We sent him off on his way. And he came back and he had the world's biggest grin on his face. And he was absolutely funny. He was walking past the shop and he'd look over and see his reflection and freak out a couple of times. But then...
Oh, wait, that's me!
Yeah. But then he just... He got over it. So, yeah. That's actually really, really cool. It's like we joke about all the funny stuff that we do in wrestling. But this was a way that we, it sounds funny, but a guy's got a fear of clowns. But in my own little warped way, I helped him get over that fear. So, yeah, it's just pretty cool.
So let's flip that one. That was easiest people to get to break. Who has been the hardest person to get to break? Or is there someone you haven't managed to get to break yet that you have tried and just not succeeded?
Okay. The hardest person to break. Bryant was pretty hard. But I managed to get him. It was quite cool. There was Charlie Roberts. Now Charlie Roberts is a bit of a legend in New Zealand wrestling. He
Yes.
actually retired at the last year's Capital Carnage. I've always wanted to have a match against him. He was one of the guys that helped me with CPW and helped me with my wrestling. So we decided to have a match against each other. And I'd reffed a few matches with him and stuff like that, but I've never actually gone against him. And we'd always tried to break Rob. That's sort of was the go-to. And we couldn't do it. Like no one could break him. Like he was pretty well known for that. But when the few times that he had broken, it was that they'd got him good. So that was actually the first time that Jitters came out to the Brock Lesnar music, because I sent Charlie Roberts out first, and he's in there waiting on the ring. Now he knew he was facing the Clown, and in the promos leading up to it, stuff like that, I was referring to the fact that I'm going up against a New Zealand legend. So it's time for me to bring out the beast in Jitters. Now, when a clown tells you he's going to bring out the beast, you just laugh because it's a clown, right?
Yep.
When that Brock Lesnar music hit, and I came out and I did the thing, like you see on the footage, Charlie Roberts literally turn around and put his head into the turnbuckle because he's just absolutely peeing himself laughing. So that was probably the most. He was probably the hardest one, but it was probably the most rewarding one to actually get.
Sweet. So with you being both the superhero and Jitters, if we were to ever see a match between superhero and Jitters, which one would you play, and who would you have play the other one?
Well, many years ago, Jitters the Clown, superhero J Marshall had a match against Umlaut, in which that match was thrown out because Jitters the Clown actually came down and bet up the superhero J Marshall.
I think I remember that. That was in Nio,
yes.
Correct?
Yes, it was. It was.
Jitters dragged superhero backstage.
Yes, yep. Which confused a lot of people because some people don't know who Jitters is, some people do. So yeah, that particular there was we had I don't think he'll mind me saying we had Sammy G play Jitters that night. He was really good. There was a match down in Christchurch that superhero. I was facing Corey Cutter, and I actually dislocated my shoulder. And at the time I was the Aftershock heavyweight champion. So yeah, that was unfortunate. But the worst part was Jitters the Clown was also in the main event. And no one would let me wrestle with my arm hanging down.
As they shouldn't.
Yeah, they kind of said I needed medical attention. So we were like, oh my god, the Jitters in this, so do we have to change the whole match? And all that. But we were like, no, we've got an idea. It was actually the K9 and Willpower from SBW came up with the idea. They said, well, since you were injured in a match with Corey Cutter, maybe Corey Cutter should play Jitters. And Corey was like, yeah, hell, that sounds like fun. So this was back before the mask, and I had the face paint, so I painted his face up and made him Jitters. Now, if you can ever imagine a sort of meth head cracked out version kind of a zombie of Jitters, that was what Corey Cutter was. He was really creepy. He did the Finn Balor crawl along the ground and everything like that. It was really creepy. He was absolutely brilliant as Jitters. I'd be very particular who would play Jitters. But I'd also have to be very choosy because just everybody else that's played Jitters has done a way better job than I have. But that's probably because you know the person that's underneath it, and it just sort of makes it so much more special.
Yeah. Speaking of characters, there's one character in CPW a family of characters in CPW that seem to have some inconsistencies with like height, weight, all that. What can you tell us about the Hazard family?
Okay, so the Hazard family. There is multiple members of this family, legendary Mexican family that have been around for hundreds of years, and they've been all over the world, very very well renowned, um, and they've settled here in New Zealand, basically in Wellington. Now, yes, now Trip Hazard, he is sort of he's the main one, I guess you would say. I think they're all sort of equal. You know, there's got Biohazard, we've had Fire Hazard, we had Minor Hazard for a while. We had Water Hazard.
Slip Hazard.
Yep. There has been mention of at the next R18 show we have one called Choking Hazard, but yeah, we won't go that far. But yes, so as for they have a unique ability to train differently for any upcoming matches, and they sometimes look a lot different. That is the official version. The real version is basically the hazards were created to give people, mainly beginners, an opportunity to have their first match under a mask and experience what it's like to be a wrestler before they bring out their gimmicks. Because the hardest thing for any wrestler in New Zealand or anywhere around the world is that first match. You don't know how to be your gimmick because you haven't figured it out yet. You know, some people don't even have a gimmick. They're just like, hey, cool, I just want to be generic wrestling guy. But you've got to figure out who your character is and what it's like being in front of a crowd. Being in front of the crowd can be really, really nervous. So we came up with this idea of we'd have Trip Hazard, where we can put people under a mask and they could go out and wrestle. And it doesn't negatively impact them, but gives them some experience. That then sort of morphed into we kind of had this generic rule of no person could play Trip Hazard more than once. So the first one we had was a young fella that many people in Wellington will know. He called by the name of Danny Octane, who is, I haven't actually measured him lately, but I'd say he's probably 5'4", 5'5". It's absolutely brilliant wrestler now, by the way. Love him to bits. We want him to try and get him back to CPW. But he was the original Trip Hazard. The following show, Trip Hazard came out, and he was 6'4", played by a gentleman by the name of Tycade. So, yeah, he does change from time to time. We had one particular match where it was actually my son Marshall started the match off as Trip Hazard. He didn't even make it into the ring, where he was beaten up by one Chalky Murdoch, who then dragged him out the back and came out wearing the mask, and he became Trip Hazard. Then in that same match, they fought out to the back with the kitchen area there at a pony, and when Chalky Murdoch, he's 6'3", he's about 130, 140 kg. When Trip Hazard emerged, he was about 5'6", and considerably smaller. After Trip Hazard won the match, it was revealed he was actually Chad Howard. So yeah, it's a cool, fun little gimmick that you can put in there. But I can honestly say, Capital Carnage this time, you will have the official Trip Hazard. Yes.
I remember that match where Marshall started off as Trip Hazard. When Chalky came out, the ref was like, no, that's not the same guy. And it was stated that the contract for Trip Hazard only had a picture of the mask. So therefore the mask was Trip Hazard.
Yeah. So, if somebody turned up into the middle of the ring to ref the match wearing your face, who are we to say that it's not Steve? So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Trip Hazard is like I say, it's
Yeah.
behind the
Or
scenes. It's a really, really cool teaching aid, and helps the guys just get some nerves out of the way. Um,
uh,
and in real life, it's a fun weekend.
yeah. Oh, you just threw me off guard there for a sec using my real name, but that's all good. I don't use my real name on here. That's all good. It's all good.
I was talking about that other guy. Yeah, see, that's what if Stephen was wearing Rex's face, we wouldn't know who was who. Right?
That's all
That's what I
good.
was meaning.
That's all good. I mean, we break kayfabe. We might as well break kayfabe on the fact that my actual name isn't Rex, but I get called Rex
What?
more than I
It's
get
not?
more than I get called my actual name. I'm actually getting it legally changed when I get married. So,
Oh, very, very cool.
but
Sorry about that.
that's all good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think how to word this one. Uh, Top 5 wrestlers in New Zealand that you've had in CPW that how do I word it? Like they manage to like get the crowd hyped up. They bring all the energy.
Yeah.
Who would your
Yeah.
top 5 be?
Okay, top 5. Probably have to say Slade Mercer for number 1. When he came over to New Zealand, he taught me a hell of a lot. He taught the boys a hell of a lot. It's just, yeah, he raised the bar at CPW. So he's definitely one. Charlie Roberts would be another one. Who did a hell of a lot. Like Charlie Roberts, former 2-time CPW heavyweight champion. You've got probably James Shaw. Anybody that's ever seen James Shaw wrestle, yeah, he's definitely a character. And he's first ever Grand Slam winner, 3-time CPW heavyweight champion. So yep, no, definitely them. Probably Bryant from Redacted. It's been a stable of. He's currently the CPW general manager. Don't know how I feel about that, but he has certainly elicits a vocal response from the crowd, and he'd be one of the best one. And fifth and final, again, it's really, really hard, and people will be annoyed if I've missed them out. But I'll probably say we've had so many other. This fifth one's quite hard. It would be. I'd have to go. This fifth. There's a tie for fifth, and it would be the Battle of the Wills. So it'd be Willpower and probably Will Cunning, because both those guys are just, they've helped us get us to CPW where it is. So yeah, I could probably make that list 50 if you wanted, but we'll stick with 5.
Sweet. Now, are there 5 people that haven't been in CPW yet that you would love to get in New Zealand?
In New Zealand, we have been really, really lucky, and we've had a wide range of people. 5 that we haven't had. There's Jake Sheehan from IPW, former IPW champion, former leader of Control. He'd be a really, really cool one to have come down. From Christchurch, Abraxas. I've always been a big fan of Abraxas. I'd love to have him come up.
Oh,
For obvious reasons, for Braxis being a monster clown, I think him coming up, backing up a funnier clown would be quite funny. Also, the man behind Abraxas is pretty cool.
Yeah. When I went down to, just talking about Braxis, when I went down to Christchurch in December last year, they had the Santa Sack match. Abraxas comes up to me because I was at ringside. He's like, "You're the new guy, right?" Yeah. He chopped me. Now, I've had a few chops before. That's the first time I still felt the chop like 2-3 days later.
Yeah. Abraxas is Yeah, and he's a lovely guy out of the ring, but he's a breakfast in the ring. That's for sure. So that's two. Um, Guys like sort of up and coming guys. I think be really really awesome. I'd love to have like T Hawk from Aotearoa Wrestling. I think he'd be really really awesome. To come down. Mm, there's a guy called Ram from SPW. I'd like him to come up. He's a really, really nice guy as well and pretty damn good. Older gentleman like myself, so distinguished. And fifth one. Um, we've had so many people on our shows. It's actually hard to think of people that actually haven't been on our
Yeah,
shows.
that's what I said. Are there five?
Um, D. I was trying to think. There's got to be one more. There has to be one more. Ah, yeah, Jay Rilla. I would love to have Jay Rilla from IPW come down. Um, yeah, he is the biggest teddy bear outside of the ring. He is the biggest, not so teddy bear in the ring.
He is a
Yeah.
monster in the ring.
I absolutely have a lot of time for that guy, and yeah, I'd love to have him down. So that would be my five.
See, going on with these five still, let's do five international superstars. They can be in any promotion worldwide. Who would you have on a CPW show?
Okay, right. So we're obviously talking budget is not an issue.
Yes, no, yeah,
Um,
budget's not an issue.
right, okay. So I would one, I'd love to have the Hurricane. Even if it wasn't, I'd love to have the Hurricane on a show. But I'd also love to have Shane Helms behind the scenes. I think that would be an awesome opportunity for me as a promoter to learn from one of the greats. You know, other people that would be on the show. Geez, that's yeah. That's a big list. Um, um, Giant Cully, because I reckon he's probably the only person that Jitters can out wrestle. Um, um, yeah, no, that. Yes, there's so many. So there's ones that I would want just because I'm a massive big fan of them, and then there's ones that would actually I would try and do it more of as what's more beneficial for the the company as a whole. Damien Slater from Australia, World Beater Wrestling. He was one that I would definitely want. I think he'd be absolutely awesome. I do not know how he is not signed anymore, signed anywhere else, because he should be on that main, WWE level. He's absolutely brilliant. Um, if you get a chance, he's got it's World Beater Wrestling on YouTube and Facebook and all the socials. Check him out. He is brilliant. He does a lot of instructional videos and pointers and tips and that for the wrestlers. And inspiring wrestlers. So yeah, no, he'd be definitely someone I'd be keen to get over. Um, that's three or four.
I think that was three.
Three. Okay. I would. Yep, I would love to have. Yeah, there's a thing. I'd love to have. Guys like CM Punk turn up. That would be quite cool. Yeah, that would be a big get if you were to get somebody like him. I think we could probably chuck in a Santino Morella. I think that he would be really really cool to bring over just for the character of it. But yeah, but we have had some celebrities come to CPW, which has been quite cool. We actually had two shows where we've had Will Ospreay legitimately at the show. I actually stood on the turnbuckle with Jay Marshall one time and got a hell yeah from Will Ospreay, which I thought was quite cool. Yeah, we've had a few. We've had a lot of the NWA old time wrestlers from on the mat days. They've been coming to the shows. There's Shane O'Rourke and Bruno Becker. They're regular fixtures at our shows. So having guys like that around are really, really cool too. So. But yeah, 5 people. If you could pick anyone, that's a hard one to do.
That is, but it gets even harder when I go 5 people from any time period.
5 people from any time period. All right, okay. I would definitely. I mean, I'm going to try and pick 5 different people.
Yeah, and we'll put them in their prime.
In their prime, okay. Well, then, first one would have to be Kurt Angle, Mr. Perfect. Would have to have him come. You'd have to. I reckon Macho Man Randy Savage. I think that would be absolutely brilliant. Just to see if he's as crazy as the stories say. One I was actually trying to work on, which I never got to see happen. I would have liked to have had both the Bushwhackers at one of our shows. But with Bushwhacker Butch passing away, kind of makes it. It was something that we were looking at, and we actually almost had Bushwhacker Butch for the debut of the tag titles. But it's just something we never had happen, so that those 2 would have been awesome to have. Any of all time. Yeah. I would say Andre the Giant, but he wrestled in New Zealand quite a bit back in the day. But yeah, I would have. Yeah, I would love to have had. Could you imagine if at Capital Carnage, all the lights went out, the fireflies came up, and we had Bray Wyatt? I mean, that would be a standard one for most people.
That would have been amazing to see.
Yeah, we actually had last year at Capital Carnage, because we had a band playing at the Aftermath show we had afterwards. They actually played the Bray Wyatt music, and I remember turning around and seeing all the wrestlers standing there doing the fireflies.
Yep.
Which was really, really cool. So yeah, and then the all time before probably definitely Jake the Snake. I think to the incredible mind that Jake the Snake has, I think in his prime, I reckon there would have been some killer matches. I don't know who could keep up with them, with this list of 5 people that we put in there, but they were some pretty cool bucket list stuff.
Yeah, speaking of the Aftermath show last year with the Bray Wyatt song and all the wrestlers and everyone with the fireflies, I turn around to the partner and I go to her to turn her phone's torchlight on, and she looks and goes, "Why?" I go, "This is Bray Wyatt's song." As soon as she heard that, she's just like grabs the phone out, like rushing to get the phone on.
Yeah. It was cool.
Yeah, but Jake the Snake, would he have Damien with him?
Well, I don't know if he'd be allowed to bring Damien into New Zealand. But since we are talking idealistically, yes, he definitely would. And I would have about 20 different photos of me with Damien.
I think I'd be the same. I'd be like, I want photos with the snake.
Yes, yeah. You'd have to.
Yeah. Ooh. Hang on, I'm gonna ask the missus if she's got any questions. You got any questions, honey?
What is some of your favourite matches you've either refed or been a part of?
Yeah, that's a good one. Favourite matches you've either refed or been a part of?
Okay. Favorite match? Um, favorite match I've refed will probably be the the final the main event for Pyro Rocks, which saw Jamie Tangata SA defeat Paulie Spitfire, Rowan Davis, and J.K. Moody. I think that was to be standing there watching. That was the one that Jamie Tangata SA, as he came out to Shepherd's Reign, playing his music live. That entrance in itself just absolutely blew me away.
That was
And
fucking epic.
yeah, the match itself was absolutely amazing. And to see 1,200 people like scream when he won, that was that's going to be pretty hard to beat. There are some cool personal ones that I thought have been pretty cool. Like I was actually the referee for a few championship changes when guys first won titles, which was quite cool for a personal reason. As favorite matches that I've been involved in, my one of the I've probably got three of them to be honest. There was my match against James Shaw as Jitters the Clown. Um, there was a it was a cool moment for me because James Shaw um, wanted me to wrestle him. I didn't think I was worthy or at that level, and he's like, "No, this is Jay. You're thinking too much about it. You just need to go out there and enjoy it." I've been watching wrestling for 30 odd years, so 35 years, so um, I know what I've got some good background and history of wrestling in my head. Just go with it. So we went out there and we just had a complete gaga match. It consisted of me rolling from one side of the ring to the other, so he couldn't keep me in the ring. I rode him around a horsey around the ring at one stage. It was just absolutely there was bugger all wrestling moves, and a lot of it was just called out there, brother. And so that made me realize as a wrestler, I can just go out there and have fun. I don't have to put so much pressure on myself as a wrestler. So that one there has probably got to be one of my favorite. I also had when I was young, early in my career, I should say, had a match against Daniel Kinder, Daniel Martins, which was absolutely phenomenal. There was a guy I looked up to. Really gave me the thing, and same with I had a match against Graham Hughes. So those are probably my top three. Um, yeah. There's been other cool moments for different reasons and stuff like that. Like I say, title changes, seeing people get to places that you knew they should be, you know, or just being in there in a match with someone that you've seen that they've doubted what they're going to do, and then they've pulled it off, and then they're so happy, and then they realise they can actually do what you believe they could. That's always a good thing. So.
Sorry, I did have a question in mind, but I forgot what I was going to ask just then. Oh, that's it. What spot have hurt? So, what's a spot that looks like it doesn't hurt, but actually hurts more than it looks? And what's one that looks like it hurts, but it doesn't actually hurt that much?
Okay. One that it looks like it hurts, and it does really, really, really hurt. But people think that's probably not as painful. Is probably getting chopped from Misty. She is legitimately the hardest chopper in New Zealand. That's always a good one.
So,
As for ones that don't hurt as much, there was I went against JT Hollow, and he does this move where he basically sits you up on the shoulders, folds you over, and then drives you into the mat. That didn't hurt as much as I envisioned it was going to. The
That's the Joker
Yeah, I got
driver, right?
Joker Driver. Yep.
Yep, I
Yep,
remember seeing that and thinking, "Ow, that looks painful."
Oh yeah, no. Put it this way. If my old body was a bit more flexible, it probably would have been nicer. But it wasn't actually that bad. Like everyone thought I was dead, but I was at the gym next day. So it was all right. Um, yeah, that's the um the Viper Room by Bryant. That was a really really cool move. It looks devastating. It's basically a black hole slam, spinning black hole slam. That looks like it's really really painful, but yeah, you don't feel a thing. It's actually a really nice bump to take. Yeah.
I was just envisioning Jitters taking the black hole slam and the spinning part. Jitters going, "Whee!"
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a really good idea, actually. Yeah.
Jeez, next if someone ever uses that move, that's something
Yeah,
Jitters
yeah.
should do. Just whee. Oof. Sorry, now thinking, what have I asked and what haven't I asked?
Yeah.
Sorry, like I said, doing this on my own is a lot harder.
Yeah, no, you're doing really, really well. I'll go ask you a question. I'll flip the tables a bit.
Okay, yep.
What's the best match? What's your favourite match that you've ever reffed?
Favorite match that I have ever reffed. Now let's see. Okay, so I'll do one from CPW and one from Unified. From CPW, and it's not just because I've got you, but Jitters versus Harry Williams with the pie spot.
Oh yes.
That was amazing. I do not know how I managed to not break it all.
Mm-hmm.
When you hit Harry with the pie, it split up and hit me, and I had like cream of that all over my glasses. So now I'm trying to ref a match, trying to see through this cream that's and just like the spots in that match, and that definitely is one of my favorites.
Yep.
It's hard for me to pick a
Sure,
top one. Last year, so I'll do three. Last year's Aftermath, Horace versus ACJ. The
yes,
no
yeah.
disqualification match.
Yep.
Especially like when ACJ got in the ring, because R18 show, and then he turned around and goes, "Why is your town so fucking cold?" And he puts his beanie on me, and he tries to put his jacket on me. Now, ACJ is a flyweight. I mean, he's in the semi-finals for the flyweight title. I'm 150 plus, so his jacket does not fit me. So he's draping it over me, and he's like, "It's a bit cold there," like the spots in that match.
Yeah.
And another match from CPW that I like riffing would have been the no disqualification match at Nine between one superhero and Ryan Zero.
Mm-hmm.
Now the spots in that match, especially when you had the pliers and was going for his piercing in between his
piercing, yes.
Yep. And he does the whole, "That's my purse, I don't know you." And then in the ring, when Ray came out and was distracting me, and then Harry slides in the ring from behind and takes out Ryan. And then I'm like questioning what the hell is going on as you've been at Ryan, and then you're like, "Just stay there, buddy," like patting me, like, "It's put me in the corner." And then you hit that power bomb on him.
Yeah.
Those are probably my three favorite matches.
Oh, hey, considering
From
I'm in two of those matches, that's pretty cool. That means a lot, actually.
And favorite match from Unified, as I haven't riffed many in Unified, so it'll only be one, would be Dan Crick versus Elliot Samuels for the Unified Light Heavyweight Championship match. Those two spent I don't know how much time outside of the ring and making me restart the count over and over and over and over to the point I'm like, I think I was getting to 4 and Dan was rolling in and out. And I'm like, restarting the count. And then, of course, the end of the match has Elliot has Dan trapped in the crossface. And as I'm checking to see if Dan wants to give up, Ray comes running down. Of course, I don't see Ray come running down round and grabs Dan and basically pulls him to the ropes. As I'm yelling at Ray, like, what's he doing getting involved in the match? Why is he here? Dan rolls up Elliot. 1, 2, 3. New champion. And then it's revealed that Dan is now part of the gun cabinet. That was an awesome... That was an awesome match. Also, that
I'm yet to see that match yet, and I definitely want to.
Oh, I've watched that match about 4 or 5 times now. It's different seeing it, like watching the match back to when you're in the ring.
Yeah.
And that, like, I showed the match to my sister on Wednesday night when I stayed at hers. But yeah, those would be my favourite matches that I've reffed so far.
Some good matches there.
Always looking forward to riffing more matches. I just hope this year... So last year, Capital Carnage, just before the show started, my shoe split.
Oh, no.
So I had to riff that entire show, well, the matches I riffed that show, with a split shoe. Thankfully, you can't tell it's split.
Yeah. No, you did well. I didn't know that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know about in February when we were at Moretta, how my pants split?
Yes, yeah.
Yep. Well, last show, I think it was first match, they ripped. I had a little hole in them. But the hole was unnoticeable, so...
Yeah.
But they've been repaired now.
No, it's alright. No. Yeah, no, it's it's pretty nerve-wracking when your pants rip or stuff like that out in the ring. I've had a couple of incidents where my gear is ripped. Luckily, I've learned to wear an extra pair of tights underneath, so kind of in strategic areas if you need to cover up.
Yep. But speaking of when they split at the February show, they split across all 4 seams between the legs. Now, I had to ref the next match after that because the first match was it ACJ versus Ryan Zero? And then after the match, a certain someone came out and attacked Ryan, disguised as someone else.
I don't remember that match. Yeah.
And then, of course, you were reffing the matches after the matches I was reffing, but you had to get changed. So I had to go and ref the next match, which was Dusty Bridges versus Tyler Ernst.
Yep.
Because I had to ref that, and I'm like trying so hard to hide this freaking rip, massive rip. Like I could probably have fit my head through it. It was that big.
Okay.
Yeah, that match luckily ended in double count out. So I don't think there was. I think there's like 1 pinfall attempt in that match.
Yeah.
So I managed to spend most of the time hiding the rip. I think it would have been more noticeable from behind.
Yeah. Hey, you did well, mate. You did well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just looking at the timing. How much longer can you go for? I'm trying to think like questions, or we can call it here if you want.
Well, it's completely up to you. Superhero's always got a million different things he's got to do. I just noticed a whole bunch of messages coming up. Apparently, the old scammers are back at it.
Oh,
I don't know if you're if anybody watching, if they get a friend request from CPW Capital Carnage, that's not us. Yeah.
yes.
So it's always fun when the scammers try and get involved. Or they do their live streaming of the show tonight.
We need to find these scammers and put them in the ring.
Yeah. They can. We'll certainly sort that out there. But
Handicap match. All of the CPW locker room versus the scammers.
yeah. It's yeah.
Yep. No disqualification, no count out, no pinfall. Match only wins by knockout.
Yeah. It's a little bit annoying, but hey, it's part of.
It shows success.
Successful wrestling promotion.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, why would they be trying to pretend to be you if you weren't successful?
Yeah. So I see it as a compliment.
Yep. Best way to look at it. Well, my brain is going blank on the question front now.
I think we've covered quite a bit of it. So
We have. Actually, I've got one more. Okay, so if you could make one dream match featuring, we'll make it a 8-man tag. So, or with 8 men, so 8-man tag or any type of 8-man match, featuring 4 wrestlers from New Zealand and 4 international. Who would be in that match?
Easy. Gun cabinet versus DX.
Well, that was easy. Match type.
Yeah, match type. You would probably do yeah, I think we'd probably definitely have to go no DQ, because I reckon that'd be quite funny. Or some stipulation along those lines. Oh no, there you go. We just make it a War Games match. That'd be even better.
War Games, sweet.
Yeah.
So both those stables have more than 4 people in them. So what 4 from each stable?
Okay, so because we've got a bunch of South Islanders now join the gun cabinet as well, I would probably go with myself and Ray Gunn. I'd probably chuck in Big Gun from Christchurch, just because, you need to have the big muscle in there. And I'd probably chuck in Harry Williams, because you need that bit of slimy factor as well. As for DX, I think we'd have to go the original. We'd have Trips, Sean, and the Outlaws, I reckon. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, the headphones have just beeped, so they're going low battery, so probably should...
Is are they red? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cable's in, so you can plug it in.
Yeah,
That means it's been a good podcast.
Yep, so we will wrap it up here. But, social links for CPW and yourself. Where can people find more stuff on CPW or Jitters the Clown and the Superhero?
Okay, right. So CPW, it's just you can either go to the website, which is capitalprowrestling.com. Because we were lucky enough to get that one, so that's pretty cool. Or social media, we've got the I think it's Capital Pro Wrestling NZ on Facebook. Instagram is Capital of New Zealand, I believe. As for my personal stuff, there's New Zealand's favourite superhero on Instagram, and J Marshal Professional Wrestler on Facebook, and there's also Jitters-COT. Jitters with a 3 instead of an E. If you're looking at that. Yeah.
Sweet. I will
I mean, that's
post.
probably
Yeah, I'll post all those in the link in the description on YouTube, and also on Spotify. Sorry, I think I interrupted you. What were you saying?
no. You're all good. You're all good. I wasn't saying.
Oh, well, thank you, Jay, for joining us on the podcast.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rex, for having me. It's always good to talk some wrestling. And yeah, I
Yes.
appreciate the opportunity you've given me. So
I appreciate the opportunities you have given me.
see, working together, mate. It's teamwork.
Yep. Now, normally I would reveal who the guest is for next month, but I'm not getting the video from him until after Capital Carnage. We're going to record it at Capital Carnage, so I will reveal that
Narrows it down a bit.
probably next week, after Carnage. I'll let you know who it is after I've ended. But yeah, thank you once again for coming out.
No problem.
Hope you enjoyed the podcast. It was great for me. I mean, yes, I have been nervous this whole time.
You did fine.
But so, everyone, we're looking at the 28th of September for the next episode. Kieran should be back then. Till then, take care, and we will see you next time. Bye!